Nigeria drops one place, ranks 146 in global ease of doing business as economies in sub-Saharan Africa set new record for third consecutive year on World Bank's latest ease of doing business rankings. Now, Nigeria and Canada strengthen bilateral trade and global demand for cucumbers increases. Welcome to this edition of Business Express. We are reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I am Amina Nujain. Welcome to the program. The Central Bank of Nigeria has released a Code of Corporate Governance for other financial institutions, OFIs, operating in the country. The OFIs are microfinance banks, primary mortgage banks, development financial institutions, bureau de change, and finance companies. Director, Financial Policy and Regulation Department Kevin Amugu CBN, in a circular, said the full implementation of the codes will come into effect April 1st, 2019. The new code pegged the tenure of the managing directors and executives of microfinance banks at 10 years. The CBN also pegged the minimum and maximum number of directors on the board of microfinance banks at 5 and 7, 5 and 9 for state microfinance banks, and 7 and 12 for national microfinance banks. Ondo State government is complementing federal government's efforts at paying more attention to agricultural development with the aim of boosting production and minimizing importation. To this end, about 15 million naira is being invested in peasant farmers by Ondo State government to strengthen production and capacity. Abiola Ario has details for Business Express.
Farming as an agricultural investment could be a lucrative venture if it gets all the necessary attention like business capital, conducive environment, markets for produce, and chief of all, government's political will.
In agribusiness, it is every operation at its own time, in its own way, with the right material. If you miss any of these factors, if you have missed it, you will never get the desired result. So what we have done now will enable them to plan and begin quick implementation next year. As for the intervention, is not just in terms of the money that has been given to them. Mr. Governor is working on rural roads. That is part of the intervention. He's equally working on tractorization. Presently, we have 3 mechanization centers. So what they need this money largely for is to assess input and the critical ones so that they can start whatever they are doing and achieve the desired objective. About 7 agricultural associations are benefiting from a 15 million naira agric window, which is expected to boost their agro businesses like farming and livestock, and in the long run is the international market.
Our association was given 1.9 million for 5 members. I'm a fish processor. I buy fish to dry. So it's one of the value chain of fish production in our country, and many people have gone for fish, dry fish. They prefer the dry fish to the fresh ones. And so I intend to get fresh fish, catfish. I have a smoking kiln with charcoal. I dry, not with firewood, to avoid smoke, to dry and then to sell, and to make my profit to return back the money.
The amount that's been given to this our association is just 1.2 million naira, just for beneficiaries. Personally, I want to expand my apiaries also buying honey from most of our members, then package it and sell. That's what I want to use the money for.
The loan facility, which is 5% interest, is payable within a period of 12 months. Beneficiaries of the agric loan were selected according to the viability of the business and ability to repay. In Akure, Abiola Rio.
Thank you, Abiola. The National Commodity Alliance Forum, constituted under the federal government and IFAD Value Chain Commodity Program, is to empower smallholder farmers to enable them to engage and transact business with major key players in the country. Musa Baba Aliyu has details.
Informal commodity markets like this one is where majority of farmers sell their produce. It is a market where quality is considered insignificant, with attendant effects on the prices of produce. It is in view of this that the federal government IFAD support program has constituted the National Commodity Alliance Forum to provide a market platform for rice and cassava production in the country.
The program is built on a very simple agribusiness 4P model, which is the producers working with the private sector.
The International Fund for Agricultural Development in Nigeria says its partnership with the country is significantly impacting on the socio-economic development of rural farmers.
On the part of IFAD, we will continue to provide the relevant support to the government and people of Nigeria in a bid to support rural communities to take over their developmental agenda.
The government has also tried to improve the quality of extension services that has progressively declined over the years nationwide, with the establishment of and the strengthening of the Department of Agricultural Extension Services.
Rice and cassava processors are also partners in the IFAD support program.
Economies in sub-Saharan Africa set a new record for a third consecutive year. This is according to the World Bank's group Ease of Doing Business 2019 Training for Reform report released today, Wednesday, the 31st of October 2018. Here is a summary of the Ease of Doing Business reports.
In the World Bank Group's annual Ease of Doing Business rankings, the top 10 economies are New Zealand, Singapore and Denmark, which retain their first, second and third spots for a second consecutive year, followed by Hong Kong, China, Republic of Korea, Georgia, Norway, United States, United Kingdom and Macedonia. The report finds that reforms are taking place where they are most needed, with low-income and low-middle-income economies carrying out 172 reforms. In sub-Saharan Africa, a record number of 40 economies implemented 107 reforms, a new best in number of reforms for a third consecutive year for the region. The Middle East and North Africa region scaled a new high with 43 reforms. In notable changes to the top 20 ranked economies this year, the United Arab Emirates joins the grouping for the first time in 11th place, while Malaysia and Mauritius gain spots in 15 and 20 places. This year's top 10 improvers, based on reforms undertaken, are Afghanistan, Djibouti, China, Azerbaijan, India, Togo, Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, Turkey, and Rwanda. Sub-Saharan Africa set a milestone for a third consecutive year, implementing 107 reforms in the past year, up from 83 the previous year. The region is home to 4 of this year's top 10 improvers: Togo, Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, and Rwanda. Nigeria carried out 4 reforms, which included making starting a business easier in Kano and Lagos, the 2 cities covered by doing business. Getting electricity and trading across borders also saw reforms in the 2 cities. In addition, Lagos made enforcing contracts easier by issuing new rules of civil procedure for small claim courts, while Kano, in a negative move, made property registration less transparent by no longer publishing online the fee schedule and list of documents necessary to transfer a property.
You are still watching Business Express, coming to you on the network service of the NTA. Remember, you can contribute to the program via our website, businessexpress.nta.gov.ng. You can also reach us through our Twitter handle, NTA News Now. Don't forget to use the hashtag BizEx showing on your screen. Meanwhile, that report sets the tone for our discussion today on the ease of doing business in Nigeria. Our guest is a professor of economics and the Vice Chancellor of Veritas University, Hyacinth Ime Ichoko. It's a pleasure to have you on the program today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Professor, looking at the statistics released by the World Bank on the Ease of Doing Business 2019 report, Nigeria scored 52.89 points out of 100.
Yes.
And we lost one place from 145. We are now 146.
Yes.
What's your take on this?
My take is that the government has tried to carry out some reforms to ease the idea of doing business in Nigeria, but it's telling us that we have not done enough. That we need to go further and carry out further reforms to be able to move ahead, to be counted among the countries that are carrying out real reforms in ease of doing business.
Now you're talking about carrying reforms. Nigeria jumped 24 places and it was highly celebrated.
Yes.
The same vein?
Yes. 2019,
dropping one place.
Yeah, because as you are improving, other countries are also improving. And so if you are improving and then other countries are improving more, then maybe that's why we have not made significant improvement this year. But I think that if we continue to drive our reforms and expand the width, the breadth and the depth of our reforms, maybe then we can get further and then maybe rank higher next time.
Okay, while Nigeria may not have recorded an impressive outing for 2019, in comparison, other sub-Saharan economies have made significant improvements.
Yes.
What's different?
Well, again, the difference is about the extent, the breadth and the depth of the reforms they have carried out, like Kenya and Togo that made significant improvements. They have, for instance, in Kenya, they zeroed in on the energy sector and have been improving their energy supply sector, and so it eases and then the tax reforms, which makes the participant people easy, able to pay their taxes online, for instance. The same thing in Togo. The same thing in other countries, Angola, other countries that have made improvements. So it is about, loosening the constraints. It's loosening the constraints that make it difficult for people to, register their businesses, make it difficult for people to have access to credits, make it easy for people to pay their taxes online, and so on and so forth. So we have started the reforms. We need to further deepen these reforms so that we can make progress in the ranking.
Now, talking about some of the factors, Sub-Saharan Africa in the report underperformed in the areas of electricity and trading across borders. How can this be improved?
Well, this has been always, these areas have been big challenges for us. Cross-border trading between African countries is very low. And so, because if you think of what are the key,
I was about to ask you, within Africa ourselves, we are not trading. Why?
That's the point. That's the point. Because there are a lot of barriers. People, countries create barriers between themselves, either tax barriers or either tariffs, that discourage inter-country and inter-regional trade in Africa. Okay, so that is exactly the point. That discourages but some countries in Africa prefer to trade with other foreign countries in Europe, in America, in Asia, instead of trading. Of course, we can understand that they produce similar products, and so it becomes difficult to exchange. But there are also products that are dissimilar that countries can really exchange in Africa. Okay, so this is the point that we can.
what should be done to address this issue of barriers?
Yeah.
We have ECOWAS, we have African Union.
Yeah, we have ECOWAS, we have African. There are many trading, areas, trade areas in sub-Saharan Africa, maybe more than in other continents. But the point is that these have faced a lot of barriers in terms of regulatory, in terms of laws that do not allow countries to effectively use these platforms to exchange goods and services. Okay. So this is the key issue. So it is there. The trading organizations, the trading areas are there, but then effective use of these platforms to be able to expand export of goods and services have been very low.
Now, still looking at the report and looking at positives, the report does state that it takes about 21 days now to start a business in sub-Saharan Africa, and that new businesses take less time to establish. So how do you see this impacting in Nigeria?
Yeah, that's exactly what is important. That you reduce the number of days, reduce the number. In fact, in Nigeria, it takes you even longer days. In some states, you can want to register a business for maybe 6 months, 1 year. You have not even succeeded in getting the necessary permit to be able to start a business. So that means ease of doing business is low. So, but in some countries, what other countries have tried, but if you think of, for instance, Lagos is one area, one state that is doing, making effort. So, but it's not so in some other states. So as we are talking of Nigeria as a whole, you are also thinking of what's going on in the different states in the country. So, because whatever happens at different levels, the states, the local government, all the difficulties and challenges of getting business off ground is impacting on the national, ease of doing business. So now, that's what people are reporting.
Now you're talking about states like Lagos, and the report did make mention of states also Kano. How would you say the efforts of the federal government is impacting states?
Yeah, because the states have their own rules, and the federal, the federal government has its own role to play. The point is, as the federal government is making its effort to expand or ease the difficulties and constraints in business, we are also thinking that states will also have even more roles to play because they are closer to some of the small businesses that experience difficulties and challenges in doing business. Okay, something like we have regulatory agencies like the central bank putting out regulations, but what of getting credit? The difficulties in getting credit, for instance, in some states, in some, at some levels, is still difficult. So people cannot access. Of course, we can't also divorce this from the problem of, social capital, trust, which is very, in some places very low. People don't have trust enough. The banks don't have trust enough to be able to lend people, and so people come back again and again. They don't succeed in getting credit for their businesses. So this is the difficult. So reforms must come from the supply side and the demand side. So this is the key issue. So as the government is making effort to reform the supply side through regulatory, loosening the regulatory, regulatory side, it's also going to be important for the demand side to be able to, first of all, get informed, know what you can do and what you cannot do with public funds, and then again, what are the issue of trust. Paying back, paying back so that that the next person can as well access the same fund. Because if you take fund and if you take credit and you don't refund, then it means that you are making it difficult for the next person to take the same credit. So reforms must go on both sides, demand side and the supply side.
Now, in addition to some of the policies you suggested, what would you say should be done to sustain the improvements on the ease of doing business and probably improve our rankings next year?
Well, the government should go further. It has already started the momentum. It has already set a momentum in place. And so what is important to do next is drive further You know, I'm sure if you have been passing through our airports and seaports, you see, the difficulties of people getting is getting better. It's getting better. For instance, at the airport, you now see less number of agencies that must inspect this, must inspect that, so that is also already loosening the constraint people are facing. Transport, you know, travelers are finding it easier. So that is one. But also the energy sector, the roads, the transport sector, these are constraints. The infrastructural sector, I mean, the government must keep investing in infrastructure, energy to improve energy supply, to improve telecommunication, to improve the road transportation, and so on and so forth. These are clear issues that the government must have to face.
Okay.
Yes.
There's hope for Nigeria.
Thank you.
Professor, we have been talking to Professor Hyacinth Icheku. He is the Vice Chancellor, Veritas University. It's been a pleasure having you on the program today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Moving on, Nigeria and Canada are planning to explore more mutual economic opportunities as part of efforts to strengthen bilateral ties between countries. How is this? This was unveiled during the visit by the Governor-General of Canada to Nigeria. Musa Abubakar examines the long-existing relationship between the African and North American country.
Canada and Nigeria relations is 56 years old, with diverse interests in the areas of security, development assistance, trade and investment. Over the years, Canada has become one of Nigeria's largest trading partners. In 2017, Nigeria was Canada's largest bilateral merchandise trading partner in sub-Saharan Africa, with bilateral merchandise trade totaling $1.47 billion. In the same year, Canadian merchandise imports from Nigeria total $1.04 billion, and her exports to Nigeria total $434.6 million.
Nigeria is Canada's largest trading partner in sub-Saharan Africa. And as well, Nigeria is the largest investor from Africa in Canada.
The two nations also signed a double taxation agreement entered in 1999 and a Foreign Investment Promotion and Protect FIPA 2015. However, the recent visit by the Governor-General of Canada is said will bolster the federal government's diversification drive, as she indicated interest to build on a more mutual and beneficial ties for both countries, most especially in the area of trade and investment.
As you mentioned to me in our conversation, there is a lot of room for growth for the bilateral relation between Nigeria and Canada. Fortunately, we've already have a strong base and we will continue to build on this. The number of Canadian companies doing business here have grown significantly in recent years, and we really hope that this delegation will foster even more trading and commerce between our two countries.
Both countries agreed to take advantage of technology, space exploration in order to promote environmental sustainability for growth and development.
Many thanks, Musa. The NSE OSHA index closed today, the last day of the month of October, negative. It's depreciated by 2.12% to close at 32,466.27 basis point, with market capitalization dropping to 11.8 trillion naira. And that's about the size of our package Business Express for today. Let's see you on Friday for another edition. I am Amina Nujain. Have a pleasant day.